Today's video, I'm going to talk about the use of machine metaphors in biology, something that not just Richard Dawkins does, but it has a long history. But how appropriate is this language of the machine to describe life? Let's find out. What is the selfish gene? I'm going to read a quote now from Richard Dawkins in his own words, which he admits himself is probably his most indulgent passage from the original book. So here it is. Now they swarm in huge colonies, safe inside gigantic lumbering robots, sealed off from the outside world, communicating with it by tortuous indirect routes, manipulating it by remote control. They are in you and in me. They created us, body and mind, and their preservation is the ultimate rationale for our existence. They have come a long way, those replicators. Now they go by the name of genes, and we are their survival machines. There's a broader point at play here, and that is how we use language to describe biology. Ultimately, metaphors are unavoidable. A few great thinkers have talked about this. Dennis Noble's talked about how, metaphor lies so deeply ingrained in our language. In a sense, it's hard for us to say anything that isn't to some extent metaphorical. It's basically, in shorthand, it's to take one thing and then compare it to something, usually something that you understand better, so it can illuminate something about the thing you don't know. So these comparisons are useful in teaching, and we use them in scientific research. But psychiatrist Ian McGilchrist has made a very important warning, which I think says it perfectly. The metaphor we choose governs what is illuminated for us and what is cast into the shadow. We had better be very careful about the metaphors we use. So then specifically, what about these machine metaphors for life? So Dawkins was continuing a long tradition of comparing organisms to machines. René Descartes, I think it was the 1600s, described mind-body dualism. So he thought of the mind or the soul as immaterial and the body as the transient, physical, material thing. So again, there's kind of this idea that secondary to the soul is the body. And then with Dawkins, secondary to the genetic material is the body or the survival machine. And again, he used machine-like language to describe that material thing, the body. And of course, the idea of machines, it was the comparison we had to hand because the scientific revolution was overlapping with the industrial revolution. And we were making more and more impressive machines all the time. Philip Ball, in his book, How Life Works, which came out quite recently, makes a great point. No machine that we have made to date comes even close to displaying the incredible properties that life does. If any comparison made between life and a machine is always going to be inaccurate and unflattering. So the best we can do, since it's somewhat unavoidable, is when we use a metaphor, we have to be clear about the limitations of that metaphor and honest about when we're using it. That's what I think that Richard Dawkins needs to do, and I hope he does in the foreword to the 50th anniversary edition, which I hope comes out this year, to say that, look, there are limits to what we are able to describe using these words. Not only that, but it imposes something on top of reality that isn't there. If you're interested in science and the philosophical implications of science, then please check out these articles on Substack, where you'll find a lot more information than discussed in the current video. So the article is called The Selfish Gene and the Problem with Machine Metaphors in Biology, and I'll give some links in the video description below. Also, there is a full audio narration that goes with those articles, so if you prefer to listen to them rather than read, you can do that as well.